I chose my dad's funeral over my job, but I never expected my entire department would choose me over the company. I, 32M, never thought I'd be the cause of an entire department walking out. I'm not a union organizer or some charismatic leader type. I'm just a regular guy who works in accounting at a mid-sized tech company. Or at least I was until 2 weeks ago. It started when I got the call that my father had suffered a massive heart attack. I was at my desk, buried in spreadsheets for the quarterly report, when my phone lit up with my mom's number. The moment I heard her voice crack, I knew. Dad was gone. Just like that. The man who taught me to ride a bike, who came to every baseball game, who helped me move into my first apartment, gone at 64. I sat there, staring at my monitor through blurry eyes, trying to process what had just happened. After I pulled myself together enough to function, I walked to my boss's office. I'll call her Kay. Kay has been the department head for 3 years, and she's known for being strictly by the book. No exceptions. I knocked and entered when she called out. She didn't look up from her computer. I need to request emergency time off, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. My father just passed away. I need to fly home for the funeral and help my mom with arrangements. Kay finally looked up, her expression unchanged. When? I need to leave tomorrow. Probably be gone for a week. She shook her head. Not possible. The quarterly report is due next week, and you're the lead on it. You know how important this is. I stood there dumbfounded. My father died an hour ago. I need to be with my family. We all have personal problems, she said, turning back to her screen. But deadlines don't change. You can take 2 days, maximum. That's all I can spare right now. 2 days. Not even enough time to fly home, attend the funeral, and fly back. I felt a flash of anger cut through my grief. This isn't a personal problem. My father died, and I'm sorry for your loss. She replied, not sounding sorry at all. But we have obligations here. The company depends on us meeting our deadlines. I stood my ground. I need a week. I'll work remotely when I can, but I need to be with my family. 2 days is all I can authorize, she repeated firmly. Take it or leave it. I left her office in a daze. At my desk, I sat staring at the family photo I keep tucked beside my monitor, Mom, Dad, my sister, and me at my sister's college graduation last year. Dad looked so proud, so healthy. I couldn't believe he was gone. My cubicle neighbor, I'll call her T, noticed something was wrong and asked if I was okay. I explained what had happened, both with my dad and with Kay. T was horrified. That's not right, she said. That has to violate some kind of policy. I checked our employee handbook. There it was, in black and white. Bereavement leave of up to 5 days for immediate family members. I printed the page and returned to Kay's office. The handbook says I'm entitled to 5 days bereavement leave, I said, placing the paper on her desk. She barely glanced at it. That's at management discretion. And I'm using my discretion to say that right now, we can't spare you for more than 2 days. The timing is unfortunate, but the report takes priority. I felt something break inside me. My father's funeral takes priority, I said quietly. I'm taking the week off. I'll work on the report remotely when I can, but I'm going to be with my family. Kay's expression hardened. If you leave, don't bother coming back. I'll consider it job abandonment. I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. Then, without another word, I walked out of her office, went back to my desk, and shut down my computer. T watched me, wide-eyed, as I gathered my things. What are you doing? She whispered. Going to my dad's funeral? I replied. I walked out of the building in a state of shock. Had I just quit my job? Or been fired? I wasn't even sure. All I knew was that I needed to book a flight home. That night, my wife held me as I finally broke down. Between sobs, I told her what had happened. She was furious but supportive. We'll figure it out, she assured me. You need to be with your mom right now. We have savings. We'll be okay. The next morning, as I was packing, I got a text from T. HR wants to talk to you. Kay told them you quit. I called HR and explained the situation. The HR rep, who I'll call M, sounded concerned but noncommittal. I'll look into this, M said. In the meantime, if you could send documentation regarding your father's passing, that would help. I sent the death certificate when I got it and forwarded the funeral home arrangements. Then I got on a plane and spent the next week in a fog of grief, funeral arrangements, and comforting my mother, who seemed to have aged a decade overnight. Midway through the week, I got another text from T. People are pissed about what happened to you. Word got around. I was too consumed with family matters to think much about work. I did log in remotely a couple of times to work on the report, despite everything. Not for Kay, but for my coworkers who would have to pick up the slack. When I returned home after the funeral, I had a voicemail from M in HR asking me to come in for a meeting. I wasn't sure what to expect. Part of me had already accepted that I was unemployed and needed to start job hunting. I walked into the office the following Monday, a week and a half after my father died. People looked up as I passed, some offering condolences, others just watching curiously. Qley was nowhere to be seen, and met me in a conference room rather than her office. She wasn't alone. An older man in an expensive suit sat beside her, whom I recognized as the company's COO. "We want to apologize for what happened," M began. "Your bereavement leave was mishandled." The COO nodded. "We've reviewed the situation, and Qley was completely out of line. You were absolutely entitled to your bereavement leave. Furthermore, threatening your job was contrary to both company policy and basic human decency." I sat there, stunned. This was not what I had expected. "We'd like to reinstate you immediately," he continued, "with back pay for last week considered as proper bereavement leave. And Qley has been reassigned." "Reassigned?" I asked. M and the COO exchanged glances. "There's been some significant developments in your absence," M said carefully. They explained that after I left, T had gone to HR to report what had happened. So had 3 other coworkers who had overheard parts of my conversation with Qley. HR had started an investigation, and in the process, discovered this wasn't the first time Qley had denied legitimate leave requests. She had a pattern of prioritizing deadlines over employee welfare. "Things came to a head last Friday," the COO said, "when Qley announced to the department that you had abandoned your job and everyone would need to work overtime to cover for your irresponsibility. Apparently, T had stood up and said that wasn't what happened at all. She told everyone about my father and Qley's refusal to grant leave. Others joined in, sharing their own experiences with Qley's management style. And then someone, they wouldn't tell me who, suggested that if the company didn't value its employees enough to let them attend a parent's funeral, perhaps they should reconsider working there. One by one, people shut down their computers and walked out. By lunchtime, the entire accounting department, all 18 people, had left the building. It wasn't a formal walkout," M said. "People just left, but they all emailed HR with the same message. I'll return when the company demonstrates it values its employees." The COO leaned forward. "This has been a wake-up call for us. We're implementing changes to ensure nothing like this happens again." I learned that Qley had been moved to a non-managerial role in another department. The quarterly report had been reassigned and the deadline extended. And the company was reviewing all management practices and leave policies. "Will you come back?" the COO asked. "We need people like you. And frankly, I don't think the department will return without you." I asked for a day to think about it. When I got home, I had dozens of messages from coworkers expressing support and checking if I was okay. T had organized a department dinner for that evening if I felt up to it. I went. The entire accounting department was there, in a private room at a local restaurant. When I walked in, several people hugged me and offered condolences about my dad. They told me how sorry they were about what had happened. "We had no idea how bad it was getting with Qley," one coworker admitted. "Your situation just made everything so clear. None of us wants to work somewhere that treats people that way." T raised her glass in a toast. "To standing up for what's right," she said, "and to your dad, who raised someone with the courage to do it." I almost broke down again right there. The next day, I accepted the company's offer to return. I had conditions, though: formalized, non-discretionary bereavement policies, a review of all management practices, and assurance that there would be no retaliation against anyone who had walked out. The company agreed to everything. When I walked back into the office the following day, the rest of the department returned too. There was a new interim manager and a palpable sense that things were going to be different. It's been a month now. The new policies are in place. Qley is keeping a low profile in her new role, and my coworkers still check in on me regularly as I navigate life without my dad. I never meant to spark a department-wide protest. I was just a son who needed to say goodbye to his father. But sometimes, standing up for what's right, even when you're at your lowest, can cause ripples you never expected. I miss my dad every day, but I like to think he would have been proud of what happened. Not of me, necessarily, but of all those people who stood up and said, "This isn't right." Because that's what he taught me. Do what's right, no matter how hard it is. And sometimes, doing what's right changes things far beyond what you could have imagined.